Is this thing on? Who knows? You know what? Let's cue the intro.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. That's right, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies, the podcast for movie lovers who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. First of all, let's give a big, warm welcome to my very old friend and co-host, Mr. Jim Chlevoyko.
I see what you did there. Old guard. Not that old.
Witty.
Thank you. Remember our time in the Civil War?
Listen.
That was nuts.
Yeah. It was crazy. Like we'd never seen that gag before. Listen, Jim, it looks like we already have a few regulars watching the live stream. Let's welcome these folks who are in the chat right now. Vlad65. I believe this is Jamie. And we've got this is Jamie, who I don't know, does he got high-speed internet out of the lake, or did he come into town just for us? Hard to say. And then we've got Maya Waboyko. Boy.
Hey, how did that happen?
Welcome, Maya, Ms. Waboyko.
She's about 20 feet that way in her room.
Yeah. You know what? And she's watching because she loves you and obviously is a fan of what we do. Jamie, they are, you know what? They are sweet tunes. And then
little Van Morrissey-ish.
Yeah. Listen, we're before we get to the chat, let's make sure we introduce our flick. Tonight we're going to be chatting about The Old Guard movie, what I would call a fantasy action movie, but a covert team of immortal mercenaries who are suddenly exposed and must now fight. Let's see, where is this? Yes. Must now fight to keep their identity a secret just as an unexpected new member is discovered. Jim, I'm gonna move over. I'm gonna cut to our fancy overview, our fancy synopsis.
Sounds great.
The Old Guard opens with a team of immortal mercenary soldiers being lured into a trap to test their powers. We immediately flash back to the gang getting this job to ostensibly save some kidnapped school children in South Sudan, and we meet its members. There's the leader Andromachy of Scythia, or Andy, played by Charlize Theron. Andy is getting really tired of fighting as, quote, nothing is getting any better, it's getting worse, close quote. The other members are Nikki, played by Luca Marinelli, and Joe, played by Joey Ansah, who were opponents during one of the Crusades, but have since found love with each other as a gay couple, which is kind of cool. And Booker, played by Matthias Schoenaerts, who first died in the relatively recent Napoleonic Wars. And while Andy and Joe seem pretty content with their situation, you do get the distinct impression the novelty wore off Booker some time ago. We also meet former CIA operative, now private consultant and Immortals trapper Copley, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Of course they escape Copley's trap, but their secret is out, and Andy has had enough. Once they find Copley and plug the leak, she is out. Well, you know what they say about timing? This is exactly when another immortal arrives on the scene. Apparently, these folks all have a dream connection when one of their kind dies and revives for the first time. The newbie here is Niall Freeman, played by KiKi Layne, a U.S. Marine doing God's work in Afghanistan. So the team has to split up. While the rest of the team heads to France and the work of finding Copley, Andy hikes to Afghanistan to find Niall before the young woman is burned at the stake by her former comrades or packed up by her commanders for medical experiments. Meanwhile, Copley reports to his client, the beady-eyed big pharma D-bag Stephen Merrick, played by Harry Melling, and his head scientist, Dr. Meta Kozak, played by Anamaria Marinca. These two want all of the immortals for their research on telomere extension, to save lives and make money, or just make money. Anyway, folks, there's the premise. Does it pay off? Stay tuned.
Oh. I'm gonna keep up on all that.
That's without a doubt, my favorite, really the only music cue I liked in that whole movie. Jim, we are now officially in the spoiler zone. Remember, everybody,
We are.
from now on, spoilers abound. But
Do your
let's
homework.
say, first of all, let's acknowledge, yes, Jamie, we are pretty handsome.
This guy.
It's what's called being a great fan.
It is.
And we got a couple more folks who've joined us. Richard, Katie, good to see you here. Yeah, let's get. I think we've got all the preliminaries out of the way, Jim. Let's get started.
So?
What did you think? Oh, and to everyone else in the chat, yeah, feel free to chime in as we're going, what you thought and everything. So don't.
Also, if you have a nanosecond, you need to.
Oh,
The big three.
Yep, you're
Let's start out
absolutely
with
right.
that.
Let's go. If I can find
Where
it.
to put those?
Exactly. Gotta like, you gotta subscribe, and you gotta ring the bell.
I gotta actually. I don't think I have enough props for this, so I'm gonna start maybe getting a little bit. Anyway. So do those three things.
I already did.
All right.
Oh,
So ask me the question again. Sorry.
Yes.
Dead air.
What did you think? What? Give me your hot take.
Yeah.
I know I have one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Pretty, and pretty fresh comic book movie. I mean, I think you could tell it was a comic book movie or a graphic novel movie, but it felt pretty fresh. I on on the trailer, I saw Charlize Theron doing her fierce walk, and I thought, oh, not another one of these. But I think she carried it off, and yeah, I was thoroughly entertained. There's a little bit of suspension of disbelief, but I was engaged through the whole thing.
Really?
So that, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Me, not so much.
Oh no.
I really, Jim, I really, by the end of the, I thought it was okay. It was at times serviceable, but a part of me is like, I'm like, if somebody owes Netflix $50-60 million because this thing had a budget allegedly of $70 million and I'm not seeing it on the screen. I thought it was a great, it reminded me of a setup for like whether it be a TV show or further series. There's a part of me kind of going, but there's the wicked villain. What do you mean for the next movie? I don't want to see this lame Shkreli knockoff. I want to see that villain. And so, and I also, like, everyone did a fine job. And yeah, you're right. Charlize Theron's great and she delivered. But, the other, let's say her co-lead in many respects was KiKi Layne. And I found that character so like grating, so irritating. Like if you have the callow youth or the fish out of water, they get to be angry, absolutely, but they can't be 100% angry. They can't be angry all the time. And that's what I thought. She was just pissed and whiny. And it's like, either you got to have some charm. Yeah, give me something else. Like if it's just you're mad and that's what you are, mad and arrogant, like without any leavening, I was like, oh, you're, and there's a part of me wondering, it's like, she's not as much the focus of the movie as she could have been. And I'm like thinking, maybe that's what they did in the edit suite. They're like, oh, you know what? But I don't know. Like, and that we can get into deeper questions later. But yeah, no, by the end of it, I was like, initially you're thinking, wow, this is Highlander meets John Wick. And by the end of it, I'm going, well, this is Highlander meets the A-Team. And I thought, and I thought at times, another critic, I love the way he put it. He says, boy, this is like a feature that really just feels like the pilot of a TV series. I was not, I didn't see, like, I'm kind of curious as how, you're talking about how it was fresh. Cause to me, I'm like, I've seen Highlander, all the action, although, and this is what I mean about the budget, Jim. All the action was pretty good, but not new, like at all. John Wick did it three times it did this, and every time 3 times better. And I gotta admit, I'm like, I'm not even sure if that really works for Charlize. Like, I mean, they did same director, not Gina here, but same director did the Leith guy, one of the co-directors of John Wick, created another great action vibe for her in Atomic Blonde. Both John Wick and Atomic Blonde together, their budgets together, and you still had $10 million left over. Versus 70 million for this. Anyway, so there's my big.
Oh, there we go. That's the only one?
Pardon?
That's the only one?
Oh, I got other complaints.
Okay.
Rest assured.
Before I made a list of, okay, we'll go to the comments here.
I agree with you.
That's what I thought you were going to.
I agree with, no.
That's what I thought you were going to lead with. I've heard a
Vlad
few things
65. Too. Well, there was music cues. Like I'm not sure it was necessarily. Yeah, there were music cues like near the end in the third act where the Niall Freeman character played by KiKi
Layne.
KiKi Layne. Thank you. where it's like it's playing this song kind of like as she's getting her game face on in the elevator after a terrible bit of dialogue, and it's singing, and it's like, this is awful. This is really, I'm uncomfortable for everyone here.
You know what I think?
So I do agree with Vlad 65.
So what I think about, and I haven't done a deep, Richard, definitely the Highlander a little more, and it could have counted as a remake. Yeah, and I've read a few comments on that, and I had a friend email me earlier who may or may not be listening now, but or watching now.
And this is why we're in the spoiler zone. We can allow this kind of comment.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Jim.
And I didn't do a deep dive on the soundtrack. I know Frank Ocean is well thought of. He doesn't do it for me particularly, but I think what it was is that the music cues were shoehorned in there a little roughly, and the volume was very loud. Like it didn't feel organic. Like it felt like it was just sort of shoved in there, almost like a shim for a leaning piece of furniture or something.
Yeah, like it put there, and it's obvious.
I have to say, the closing song was with the Amy Winehouse vibe. That was pretty cool. I had sort of a Amy Winehouse Bondian kind of vibe, and I literally just heard it 10 minutes ago. But well, not 10 minutes ago. I think I finished at 9. But yeah, no, it was. I just thought it was a little bit. It might be volume. It might be something. But when, like, the whole thing about music is that you're not supposed to notice it, right? Or, I mean, that's what they say.
Obvious.
Yeah. So I can see that, but
yes, Vlad.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We're picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I was mistaking him for someone else.
Yes.
Calling him Jamie, and he's not Jamie.
Well, there was another person too.
Vlad 65. I again, let's with this we can display.
They sound like fake names.
And I agree with you, Vlad. Like, I thought it was an okay movie, and this is where I actually started to dislike it more, is because it's just an okay movie with a lot of money behind it and some top tier talent and some great development, and like. Yeah, after a while, you're like, wow, that. And yes, in the rewatching, because I did look at some parts over again, Jim, I found, like, especially the KiKi Layne's character and her performance. And I really, in this kind of production, I don't think you can hold her responsible for it. We can hold a number of people, but yeah, she is not at a point in her career where she goes, this is my choice and it's what I'm doing. Well, mind you, if she never gets cast again, then maybe she did. And they're just all right, well, cut around it and we'll move on. But yeah, I suspect that was the performance they were going for. And she was just not bringing enough charm to make that work. You know what I mean?
It almost reminds me of those old war movies and those old Westerns when they would say, and introducing James Darren or whatever. They always sort of made fun of that on the Flintstones, and it would just be like there was a number of times, especially war movies and ensemble westerns, they do that. They would introduce this young talent from wherever and kind of throw them in there, and maybe
Sink
they'd
or
hold
swim.
up and maybe they wouldn't. But I came up with some alternate titles. Space Axe. Because I wanted to see more of that axe. It was on the movie poster, and we saw it twice.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. I also thought Karate Zelig, after the Woody Allen movie, of course, and Photoshop Soldiers.
Hey, that's pretty good, yeah.
So those are my alternate titles. That took me an hour.
Yeah. I'm down with that. I'm not going to disagree with that. Well, and that goes back to, and I'm going to have to listen to it to look for some of it. And I didn't have enough time to cut out, Jim, the component I was talking about, this really hard and in your face cue near the end. But I was just like, who does this? They might do unless they have a really big name band, like they've got I'm thinking Thor Ragnarok kind of music cue money,
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever had that kind of dough.
Yeah.
Ever,
Yeah, no, I mean, there was part of the reason why I bought into it. It's we're in July here. I think it's got the feel of a summertime movie. And I thought the look was pretty good, and I was sort of set up, and I sort of thought, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we've seen Charlize Theron do this kind of strutty, fighty thing a number of times now, and I don't know if I would include Fury Road in that because it's sort of a different role, but that's the highlight of her sort of the latter stage of her career, but. I was sort of like, the first scene where she's got the sunglasses on and the haircut, and she's doing the strut down the Moroccan alley, and I just thought, is there going to be more of this? But I think what she does is that she's got to be sort of crisp like a soldier, but she's also got to convey tiredness, and I think that's a really tricky line to. And I thought she did great. Like I haven't been this impressed with her since Fury Road, but
I think, and this is maybe where the difference between us on this one, Jim, is I keep comparing this to Atomic Blonde, which I thought. Now on this one, Vlad, just quickly a quick sidebar. Are you seeing this on the screen now, Jim? Vlad 65's comment. Turk thrust in Shot in the Dark. I am not familiar with. Heck, I'm not even familiar with the film. I don't think. Although
is that Elke Summer and Peter Sellers? Is that no?
Shot in the. I don't think so.
What am I thinking of? Anyway, so go on with your thought there.
I'm gonna have to look it up as well, Vlad. So again, can't quite comment on it right now. And we're going to get to Richard's comment in a sec, but I think part of the difference is I compare this to, like, both, let's say, when I compare this to Atomic Blonde, I'm kind of going, well, yeah, neither have a lot of weight, and yeah, that's right. They're summertime movies. But when I compare the two, I think of Atomic Blonde had so much style. I may not, after a while, I'll forget what the movie's actually about, but I'll remember seeing it. And I'll remember all that style and a couple of great action set pieces that were newish, unique. Even the way, I bought it. Whereas this was like more when we did that, let's John Wick this component. And without the style, like this kind of goes back to not a bad comment there, Richard, but perhaps not from Jim's perspective. But yeah, I think about it, and there's like Vlad is saying that one with an actual credit.
Yeah.
I look at this movie and I go, wow, you had more than twice the budget. It should be, and there was components, like if you look at the way it was lit, especially, and this is the thing, first pass, there was a great kind of set piece that had one little weird note at the end, but when her and Niall Freeman, like Charlize, Andy and Niall Freeman have a nice fight in the plane. Which I actually thought was pretty good, but part of it was, it's like, wow, they're really kind of doing that thing that bringing some of that help me out here, Jim. That movie I've just been talking about with Keanu Reeves,
Atomic Blonde. Wick.
Yeah, John Wick, where where I'm thinking, it's a lower budget, so they keep the location very tight, not a lot of wide shots, and it's brightly lit so that you don't have to have the focus super perfect, because they can do that, because you do that if you're talking about a low budget shoot. And it was emphasized when at the very end, there was like what you would have called like a beginner editor's mistake, where it crosses the line of action, the 180 degree rule. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the 180 degree rule is, let's say Jim, look to your right.
My right is that way.
Yeah. And I'm looking to my left, so it looks like we're looking at each other, right? You draw a line between our eyes. That's the 180 degrees. Whatever side the camera is on, folks, you keep it on that side. You can move like from Jim's side to my side, looking mostly at Jim with over my shoulder, but you don't go to the other side unless you have something to cut to, because if we flipped over to the other side, people are taken out of where they think they are in space. And there was one of those errors at the very end of the action sequence, but I was like, it's kind of neat that you can see that, because it's so rare in a real movie, in a movie with a budget. It's just like, wow, but I was like giving it slack because I'm like, oh, this has got to be low budget. Got to be low budget. And therefore, Jim, all I can think of is like, well, they don't have a lot of money and they want to put in a few of these action sequences. Plus they got special effects. I get it. I'm cutting it. And it's later, I'm like, $70 million?
Yeah.
Somebody got a great fee. Now, mind you, I'm not going to resent Charlize Theron for that. If most of the money went to her fee, yeah, she is an A-list, probably one of it's the reason it's number one on Netflix for 3-4 days in a row. It's Charlize Theron. No one else. No one's going, ooh, another Chiwetel Ejiofor role where he emotes.
Where he looks sad.
Yeah, where he's so full as he's doing a bad thing. Yeah.
I love how he's deadpan all the time until the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Until
the end with the weirdest note. It's like, we're not asking you. And I'm like, I think he already accepted the job. Why is everyone playing the heavy here? It looked like he was like, wow, I can help. Sure. We're not asking you. I thought I already said, yeah. Okay. You're that kind of asshole. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, No. He's actually, if he doesn't watch out, he's gonna be typecast as the bad guy in everything. Because
the good bad guy, the thinking, yeah. All right, where are we here, bud?
So,
yeah, it is shocking, isn't it, Vlad? $70 million.
I suspect a lot of that was salaries.
And seven,
salary.
And one salary. Like, I mean, they're not. And again, Jim, heck, you look at Atomic Blonde had like top tier cast throughout, including a co-lead / villain in the Scott McAvoy, who probably commands top dollar, right? The John Wick, great, solid spread around cast. Yeah, probably most of the money went to him. Yeah. Like it's, 70 million versus 30 and around 20-25 for John Wick, 30 on Atomic Blonde. I mean, yes, she produced it, she developed it, and it could very well be Netflix is saying, well, what do you want? Just make movies. We need a movie with you. She's got a lot of stuff in development at Netflix, according to Wikipedia. But on this one, it could very well have been, well, we really need you in one movie. And she's like, well, you really need to pay me, because she's still an A-list feature actor. And so, yeah, she might have that 50-60 million that did not go on the screen may have went right into her pocket. And I can't resent her for that. But I can also kind of call it and go, well, you're not giving me 70 million on the screen. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, she's 45 next month. So maybe she's only, doesn't have, if every movie takes 1 or 2 years to make, I mean, maybe she doesn't have a lot of these, kick butt type movies left in her.
Yeah. She is starting to age out, which is awful and wrong. And we could have a whole episode about that, but yeah, she's. So yeah, I can't resent her taking a paycheck, but I can still kind of go, yeah, it's not a $70 million movie. And I'm not forced to like it, or I'm not forced to put it on the same level.
Yeah.
I thought it was me. And that's why maybe it bothered me in comparison on what I've others. If I heard 20 million, because I really was, it's like 10, 20 million.
So
not bad.
Did you hear this afterwards? Like you became aware of the budget afterwards?
There was a couple of things. It was afterwards, and there was a couple of things that were bugging me. But then as I was kind of doing my digging in a little deeper, I'm like 70 million. But it's like quoting three sources. They're all like, and including the director.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
You're going to be up tonight at 3 a.m. going 70 million. 70. I can't sleep. 70 million, wouldn't it?
Sweet merciful God, $70 million for what is a movie of the week. You know what? I'm not going wow now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even. Again, Jim, the best I could have ever given is not bad for a Netflix film, and Charlize Theron delivers.
Yeah,
sure.
So, I what I kind of liked about it is it to me, and none of this stuff we've all this stuff we've seen before, I think, and so it's just how you deliver it, right? It's
not one of them where we ever said, "Wow, Oscar worthy."
Yeah. Oh no. I just I enjoyed it. And I didn't feel, and you just from our conversations, me in the side quest. I didn't think there was a lot of side quests. Like it had a fairly with a few quibbles, a little bit of a streamline,
Jim. Yeah.
Right. It just went from point A to point B, and for a while I thought they were going to pursue the Quinn or Kyun, the Vietnamese character. Because she had been lost in action many years before, and I thought, okay, there's a side quest.
They gave us that. That wouldn't have been a side quest, though. That should have been the quest.
Well, yeah.
As soon as we knew about that, or reveal her as the power behind the Shkreli guy.
Well, after about 45 minutes, I thought,
it's too late.
If there's going to be a sequel, that's going to be it.
Yeah,
right.
And but there, Jim, on that one, I'm like, she, like, that could have been the quest. She could have been the villain or the villain behind the villain. But to kind of go, and there was where I was like, oh, that's awful. Like, part of the problem with any of these kind of superhero movies is it's hard to kind of have stakes for these characters.
Yeah.
What are the stakes? They're all going to live. Like, one of the weird tone moments I had was the Joey and Nikki, and Nikki, the couple.
Yeah,
they are even almost comically dealing with the torture and everything, in part because, well, they're immortal, and nothing that the scientist is threatening is really kind of like, I mean. It sucks, but they keep chatting, and they're all like, well, what are you going to do? Kill us? Like, we just live.
Yeah.
Until we don't. But it does, all of a sudden, and then later, there's a weird moment where you shouldn't have shot Nikki. And he shoots some guy, and it's like, well, you mean the guy who got shot in the head and then woke up like 2 minutes later, like, cough, ow, I have a headache? Like, so it kind of... Whereas the Quinn
I think there's still
in that
pain
whole arc, well, pain, you bet, like any of these, But that's all they're. Whereas the existential, that permanent torture of the Quinn character, where it was like, oh, that's some stakes. That's a fate worse than death.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but apparently we're not going there. We're gonna fuck around with. Well, the douchebag in London. And then that I thought was like kind of a, it's like, I thought that was, Jim, I wrote it down. It's like, whoo, there's the fireworks factory. Goodbye, fireworks factory.
So with that character, I sort of tried to envision a little bit like their thought of, I'm blocking my own light. They're thought of as witches, and so they're gonna, back in the 1700s or 1800s, or 1700s, I guess, or 1600s, and they put her in a sort of an Iron Maiden thing, and then throw this Quinn character in the water, where she just dies from drowning, wakes up again, dies from drowning, and just sort of an endless kind of procession. This is for people who haven't seen it yet. And so the Andy character, so Charlize Theron and her crew, apparently vowed to never stop looking for her. And
then stopped.
And then at what point do you stop? What point do you go like, I'm tired of having the bends, or, oh, look, there's some storm clouds. You know what? Let's go into land for a couple hundred years. Like I couldn't, like if one of your crew is missing, it's the seas around England. How hard can it be? Maybe
how far did that ship go? Especially when they found crew members.
Yeah, I mean,
here, you're gonna take us there.
Oy. And you didn't have the technology then, but holy cow. Can't find her. We tried.
She did feel it's part of her angst. Why did I give up? I gave up.
Yeah.
But again, there's all that stuff there, Jim, that could have been explored in a great movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, hey, Jelly Duck.
Jelly Duck, Ahmed. Well, and this is exactly it, Ahmed. Like, what kind of hero is she? And this is the thing. Even the rules were weird because, these rules of immortality are kind of strange. I thought where she seemed to be, Jim. They have a connection, and it's kind of told as a one-off. It stops once you had your first rebirth death. We kind of get to zero in on your location. But then later, the new one, the Niall Freeman character, KiKi Layne's character, she gets to, I'm still dreaming of her. And apparently a couple of the others seem to be. And it's like, well, I think there's your call to adventure.
Yeah.
There's so much that could have been done with that. And to say, well, we'll deal with it in the next movie. It's like, well, but I'm wondering why I'm watching this movie then. Why am I being given the lame one? And again, Jim, they tease it out they do the MCU post-credits thing, but they could have given us she was the power behind. Even deal with it super early. Okay, by the time we just couldn't hear her. And here's the way you could have fixed that. Do it super early. Yeah, well, let me tell you how bad it can be. It's, as they're trying to bring this callow youth up, it's like, listen, it can be bad. We looked and we looked. But sooner or later, you lose the connection. That means she's dead. And then all of a sudden, we all think she's dead, but we know she exists. And we know this thing can happen. We figured, she reached her limit of deaths.
Yeah.
And then we see her later going, oh my God, she's back. It could get worse. And that she's the one pulling the strings, trying to F with everyone.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that. There's a way to connect these, but just to kind of go, there's the fireworks factory. We'll see you in the second movie. And there's a good chance we're not getting another movie. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Certainly not $70 million worth.
Yeah.
And
she's evidently going to be in it.
Takes all the money. Yeah. And even that is like, why is she in them? Okay, this is funny.
The long walk to Afghanistan, followed by sneaking to a U.S. base, kidnapping a Marine, and driving away could have been a movie in itself. So, yeah, and that's not to say that there wasn't any suspension.
There are smart remarks I was thinking during that sequence, but sorry, Jim.
Just in terms of suspension of disbelief, I think I wrote a few things down here, but there was a number of times, and that was probably the most blatant one, was, she's all dressed in black. She just shows up. I mean, she's not invisible and she's not magical. She's immortal. And she shows up on a base where, soldiers are going to notice her. And she just goes, hey, bang, bang, and then takes two guys out. And they don't even show her taking the Humvee. It's just a cut to her driving it. It was a little bit silly. And there's
come back to your comment, Vlad.
There's a few lines.
Yeah.
I lead a group of immortals. Sort of hard to get around that one. We dream of each other. They stop when we meet. And then also, you come from warriors. There's sort of in that sense, it was that comic booky, that sort of portentous, not not that's not the right word, pretentious, I guess. A little bit posy.
Yeah.
You know, in that sense, a lot of she was when KiKi when the Nile character was all mad, and she was being sort of cast aside because she was weird by the other guys in the base. She was doing vengeance sit-ups. She's doing action sit-ups where she's punching and doing sit-ups.
I thought they weren't mad sit-ups. They were, she's healthy and that shouldn't be after getting her throat cut, and this is weird. I thought that was more the, you're a witch and we're gonna burn you.
Yeah, that's true. But it was also
it was still, it looked dumb.
When you're a teenage guy and you're like, I'm mad, I'm gonna go exercise, I'm gonna do some punching sit-up, and it had a sort of that
to
vibe
show
to
off how mad you are.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna go walk in the rain and chop down some trees, and that kind of.
Yeah, and this is what really what really got me digging deeper into the movie. I think if she had some charm to kind of leaven, to take the sting out of the anger, I could have, because let's go back to the perfect callow youth, Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah. But I don't want to.
You don't want to, or he's like, I could fly it, or I could. And every character, the mentor is like, yeah. Anyway, this is what we're gonna do. Yeah. or there's he has a perfect leaven from the Obi-Wan kind of. Yes, but there's another way we can do this. Teaching him as a mentor should. Mm-hmm. And then the Han character kind of, oh yeah, sure you can, boy. There wasn't enough of that. And also, he had charm. He seemed to be excited about the world he's in, even after, ending up there for shitty reasons. Mm-hmm. You know what? And her, she just seems... she's just mad and that teenage mad and so it just grated on me so much. I didn't like it when she was on the screen. And multiple times she is being shown, it's like, this is a different world and you got to get your head around it. It's almost like 5 minutes later, anyway, I want to go back to the way it was. And it's like, okay, is this what the movie's gonna be about? And that's what I think. This movie is having a hard time, in a way, really committing. It was like, in the end, it's like, no, you know what? We're gonna stick to the simple action line. Mm. But, who? If you're to say who the lead character is, it's Charlize. Yeah. But she should have been right next to her, and she wasn't. And I in a way, thank God, because it would have been awful. I would have been complaining even more. Well, I really would have been whining. I would have been that angry teenager going,
I'm blue milk lactose intolerant. So, what do you think of that weird ancient flashback with Charlize with axe on horseback? So it's costumes for 1970s.
Again,
1970 AD or BC?
Well, apparently I did look this up. The Scythia, the best I could find is that part north of the Black Sea, east of the Balkans, I guess. Turkey? North of Turkey, north of the sea. Okay. Scythia, it was kind of
she's Ukrainian?
Greek. It's a Greek name. Yeah, it's a Greek name for that area and of classical antiquity or classical era, classical Athens. So she's about 2,500 or so, around 2,500 years old.
Okay, that's why she had dark hair.
I loved, this is when I was still enjoying it, though, is when she got off the train, Richard. I really did love that moment where I'm like, oh, apparently she's just going to walk. No, for folks who haven't seen the movie, but it looks like everyone has, which is awesome. But for folks who haven't, the gang, this group of good guy mercenaries, the A-Team. This is what the A-Team does. they help. They're soldiers of fortune, but helping good guys. They're on the train, and all of a sudden they have this connection, and they've got to split up. And does Charlize Theron say, well, you know what? Okay, all right, let's cut to getting in the station. I'm going this way, you're going that way. No, she just jumps off the train in the middle of the Sudanese desert and just starts walking. I mean, it's in Africa. She's got a ways. That's going to be quite the hike.
She is African, if that helps.
Yeah, I don't think it does.
No.
Jim, the chat's on fire.
A bunch of old guys going 70 million, 70 million. It'll be like tomorrow. It'll be like, Richard, what's wrong? Well, there's this movie and it cost 70 million.
70 million, and all I got was this lame costume. Here, let me I think we've had our fun with that part. Was there any other than Charlize Theron? Was there any? First of all, what did you think of KiKi Layne's performance? Like, did you have a different take on her, or?
No, I was sort of, there's that, in a movie, movies are all about conflict, right? So there's going to be a little bit of that sort of push and pull anyway. So that's sort of, she's obviously not going to be a character that agrees with everything and goes along with everything. And I was sort of interested in, there's some issues with motivation here. And so for her, the Nile character would be
Jelly Duck will come back to that. It was not.
Everyone. And he's younger than us. He's going to be 70 million. But her character would be screwed. She's AWOL from the Marines.
We're going to bring, let me put a pin in it. Jelly Duck, we are going to bring you around to our way of thinking once we tell you. Actually, we're just going to give you a quick little side homework. Here's a side quest for you, Ahmed. Look up the budget for Atomic Blonde and look up the budget for the first John Wick. Okay, sorry, Jim.
He's making music.
He's making good music. Guy can make some beats.
Yeah. So what we're okay. So she would be
KiKi
screwed.
Layne.
She's AWOL, and they're gonna obviously. So there's something weird and sciencey about her. So they're gonna, like Charlize,
perform medical
Andy says to her, they're gonna lock you up. She's not gonna have any connection with her family, so she's screwed. So she's saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna go back to the way it was," and that's a willful blindness, I think. Like she's, and that's not even,
and way too late in the movie.
I don't want to call her character dumb, but it's just like a willful ignorance almost. And then in terms of other things, and
she doesn't change on it.
Yeah. No.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
I was just going to say the other big thing was that everything sort of hinges on the Booker character screwing the rest of the group over. Let's give ourselves all up so we can cure human disease. Number one, really? Is that going to make so you want an Earth with 20 billion people on it? But anyway, I thought, he's just given up to these people whose motivations are obviously not very good, that's a stupid move, and I mean the word stupid. That's a stupid move by a character that should be smarter. Maybe it's a form of suicide. Maybe it's giving up, but it's. I did not get that because they were screwed. Like they
did. I think that's exact. He even said it. He's like. He said it was for suicide, and I don't think he ever dealt with it. It was always the Copley character that he dealt with.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he said it. He's at the when the only person who didn't know it was him, Charlize Theron's character, realizes it's him, and it's like, oh come on, I pegged that guy like first scene, and I did.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, it's got to be him. Traitor.
I thought they were going to kill him.
Literally waving.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. He wants to die.
Yeah.
And it's and that I thought he delivered that. They're just that he wanted to die, and then he does say it. He's saying to her, "It's like, listen, they do this. They can take this away from us. We could end."
Yeah.
And I think that was and there was a bit of energy between those two on that. But yeah, you're right. Like they didn't give him. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Plus, Richard, I'm wondering if anyone in the chat, they were in a lot of pictures for people who avoid pictures. It's so hard. I don't know, you're posing for them throughout history.
Yeah.
Like, what now? You're camera shy?
No one's going to notice.
Yeah, like I
actually, I just thought of something.
But Vlad, I honestly thought, he's got to be the bad guy. They're getting sold out. Like even Copley, waving at the camera at the beginning and it's like, well, it's got to be a trap, right? Yes, it's a trap. Who's the one who was at the very beginning? Who's the one selling this mission hard? Even though, she's like, we don't do repeats. We don't do repeats for a reason. But then, yes, they all do. Let's go on back to, I think what Richard said, which is a great point. Yeah, they break all the rules. They do a repeat. They're like, did you recce? And what was the pile of children's shoes? I didn't get that.
Or just the evidence that there were kids there, and then they had
in a pile. It's like,
yeah.
well, they made them terrorists who kidnap children. Say, can you take your shoes off before?
So they don't escape. So if you don't have shoes and you're walking across hot desert, and
you're an African girl. I'm thinking probably wearing bare feet most of the time, kicking that rock that they're using to play soccer. Yes.
Yeah, but if you're in the middle of nowhere, like take the shoes. They're not going to last long. But yeah, I didn't actually even, because he was the one who did the reconnaissance on it. The Booker character, he's the one that said, "Oh, I checked these guys out. I thought it was legit, but clearly." I guess it was set up the whole movie long. I didn't pick up on that immediately,
What my
and then he's the one that found out where Copley was. He goes, "Oh, look, I found." He walks out with his laptop. Yeah. Oh, look, I found this, and he doesn't say what, right?
Yeah.
So we're just supposed to go along with it. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weak, but I mean, you know what? It's a whole bunch of weak things that end up for kind of a meh twist.
Yeah.
Which is why, let's go back to, I think, Wayne said it. It's like, if you don't notice that stuff, it's still acting on you, all those misses. Mm-hmm. All those missed clues, they're still acting on you. And because they're poorly done, that's a perfect, reasonable thing, kind of going, what? Really? Me, I was like, well, finally, but it wasn't done well. The kids are here. It's like, yeah, I guess. Even then, it's like, yeah, the kids are here.
Well, it's sort
a
of
trap.
It's
a trap.
Not
I can't
to
do that Admiral Akbar thing. I wish I could.
Not to
sorry,
not comparing the two things, but if you walk into any of the concentration camps, there's piles of shoes, piles of glasses, piles of all the stuff that they've taken off people. Yeah. That was sort of my cue.
Gotcha.
Not on the same level, of course.
Maybe that was what they're going for.
It's a way to dispossess you of things, right?
Basic
cut the hair, take the jewelry, take the eyeglasses, that sort of thing. So
I didn't even with the and maybe maybe this is a great cue to go a little deeper on some of the politics of the movie and that. What did you think of every character's got to have their save the cat moment. Well, that's not a must-have, but I get where Blake Snyder's coming from in his screenwriting book, Save the Cat. You got to have a moment to show, if you're kind of wondering who this character is, put them in a situation where they can save someone, be kind, do a good thing, and it really does help you sell that character. This is the person I'm supposed to be on the side of. Niall Freeman, she has that moment in the Afghan village that, yeah, I was kind of curious what you thought of. I'll bring my thoughts up afterwards, but I wanted to know what you thought of that sequence, you know?
Yeah, that was I thought it was quite it was quick and brief, but the two shots, I know that's sort of a big rule, but and that they're supposed to take them alive as well, and you're just sort of sending obviously rookie soldiers in to capture this guy, de-arm him and deliver him as a prisoner. It's a pretty tall order, but so I sort of wondered about the logic of that.
I'm not sure they didn't. I think they were just sent to go talk. The women were sent to talk to the women.
Yeah.
No, and I don't think it was like it driven as a sexist thing, but I think that's all. And then all of a sudden they found out he was in there, and they're like, "Well, we're going to take him down."
Yeah, they wanted him alive and everything. I like to. There was a bit of a weird moment towards the end of the movie where another sort of fireworks factory moment is that Charlize Theron and that big guy are having a hand-to-hand battle, like a big kicky, fighty, punchy kind of thing in that glass walkway. And the fireworks factory aspect of it is, why didn't anybody go flying out the glass walkway? Anyway,
I can't believe no one was. Yeah, no, I guess you're right.
And so she breaks.
But I'm also thinking it's like, no. That could cost this production $500,000, and that's my $500,000.
Exactly. And it also sort of reminded me slightly of
that's my producer fee.
Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal fighting in the last Spider-Man movie there, because they're fighting in a similar walkway. But anyway,
that's a good point. Yeah.
But and then she beats the crap out of him, presumably breaking some limbs.
And they never once, like going back to that,
and they don't kill, and they leave him alive. And they've killed everyone else, but one of them handed a gun. I thought for sure she was going to go kabang, and she left him alive. And I thought, oh, okay, so they're leaving one guy
this rest of those security guards had to die.
Yeah,
she's got to show an iota of mercy. There's another one though. They never went really big wide. Back to that, they kept everything in small spaces that they can control. Yeah. And or make for an efficient production, but again, $70 million on efficient production.
There you go.
Not even a car chase.
You think it'd be in the title, the $70 million guards.
Yeah,
more axe. I want the sequel. It's even in the movie poster. It's a cool round axe. I wanted the second one to be told from the axe's point of view. It'd be like a Michael Moorcock story where the axe has a personality. Anyway.
All right. Well, going back to this, what I don't know, this is where I was, and it seemed to be something they kept going back to for a bit. And the part of me was like, okay, filmmaker, what's your point? But like in that, first of all, she's sending out candy, just such it's a cliche now. American soldier hands out candy. But then they go to where these women are, and I get I read it as, oh, look at these American soldiers being culturally sensitive, having women in a private women's space, go talk to them. Mm-hmm. But then there's that terribly on the nose, they're all, we're being used as human shields for the bad guy. And I'm like, listen, if the United States was all about women's rights in Afghanistan, they would have just left the Soviet Union client state in, because then women were walking down the streets of Kabul in slacks. This is and also it so I found that really kind of off-putting, and the whole, he's got a knife, and it's like, what is this? Did anyone kind of take another look at this scene, given what's going on now? There's this weird propaganda. That's why you put him down and you put your knee on his neck because he could, And so I found that off-putting, and it only my memory of it only got worse when they're in the plane. And there's, again, the wise old woman, which is part of Charlize Theron's role here, to be that mentor. And she's like, there is no God. And she's kind of all cynical. And Niall Freeman's like, you know, because she's kind of, are you praying? There's no God. Get your head out of your ass. And now Freeman's like, well, maybe not your God. And it was just so, it's like, okay, that's, yeah, it took me out of the movie. And unlike the last movie, which I really did think hit the Christian notes well, at least in the first half. And even in the second half, I'm like, okay, you know, I sure, I'm okay with it. Here, I was like, wow, she's a jerk. And just, well, my God's real. It's like, that's the exact attitude you need in a Muslim country, you know, trying to win the hearts and minds, you know. And then it's almost so they have this picture perfect attempt to get the one bad Muslim guy and it makes a peaceful village when it's like, no, we know how these play out. There's a drone strike as they all sit in their forward. They sit in the base. They shoot the crap out of everything. Yes, once in a while they're actually going out and rounding up, but they're rounding up usual suspects half the time. You know, it's like, this is like, it was such an off note to me. I was really kind of
even going into the town in the first place.
Oh yeah, like maybe they do go in, but they do. They're like kind of, you sure? Go in there anyway. Like,
are they even doing that on the ground stuff anymore? I didn't think.
I think most of it is being done by drone. You know, they're just like, okay, what's our intel telling us? Great, shoot the shit out of it. Wow, wiped out a family gathering. That sucks.
The God line didn't bug me as much. I mean, I think she's got her on the defensive, right? I mean, she's, you know, and you know, are you praying? Ha ha ha! Like, it's a bit of an asshole move for Charlize Theron's Andy character to sort of poke the bear when this young woman's obviously gotten into this, like, you know, crazy, ridiculous has become mythology, like in the course of 48 hours. Like, what are you praying? And it's just like, can you give her a sec? Let her have a sandwich. Do the crossword puzzle. You know, take it easy on her, and
cut
you know,
the woman some slack.
Just you know, if it gets you through the night, as John Lennon used to say, you know, go for it. But yeah, no, that didn't bug me that much. There was this is a total tangent as you're fixing things up. There's a great line in the new Perry Mason series on HBO/Crave where he's talking with an evangelist, and it's Matthew Rhys, and the evangelist said, "Oh, God is still with you, Mr. Mason," and he goes, "My God left me on a battlefield in France." Anyway, what were we talking about? And it was just, but he did it at like a little side eye, and it was just like, oh, that's a line. Anyway, slight tangent.
I think, but a great tangent, Jim. Our show is nothing if we're not open to tangents.
Hamilton was great.
Okay,
I'm gonna
we gotta catch up on a couple of comments because I think we're still within the. Yeah, she did live. And this is another performance. I was like, and I'm not a huge, like, I'm not deeply familiar with Anamaria Marinca's filmography. A lot of it is like, it looks like some really great Romanian film. But she's been in real movies, like, and done well. And it's like, you could almost forget, as she says, the medical director, I think, lived too. Yeah, I agree with you. I think all she got was she got conked on the head. Which means their secret still isn't out. That's what I thought at the end. It's like, no, you haven't killed everyone. There's that one poor security guard that's still alive.
Limpy.
Yeah, but you're right, Jim. No, Jelly Duck, there isn't. There's no car chase.
In their defense, there's a peeling away of a Volvo when they leave the church after attack. Yes, that's the extent of that.
That's it. They spun the wheels in the dirt
on the
briefly down the driveway. But more axe.
Yes. Or even a spin-off Space axe. Not really space, but that's what I called it.
I think I gotta be able to. We need this. Okay, you know what? We're gonna come back to this. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Vlad 65. And yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think you kind of taken a bit of my edge off of that. I just thought she was mine is, but you're absolutely right. You know what? Charlize Theron, and maybe this is part of it is I've been used to Charlize Theron. Plus, she was just acting better.
Yeah,
she delivered a performance. But I was getting her tiredness, her kind of I'm burnt out. I'm sick of this. I need to retire.
as Doug McKenzie says to Bob when they're directing their own movie, act more. That's gonna stay with me.
There's a deep cut to a previous episode.
Yes.
Jim, what other movies did this one remind you of?
Oh, well, there was, I was thinking, and it struck me, like, I thought, oh, this reminds me of that, and that reminds me of this. You know what I find interesting is yet another big massacre in a church. It reminds me of Colin Firth tearing the congregation apart in The Kingsman there. And I thought, what is it with big attacks in churches these days? That was about 5 or 10 years ago, but
and another great off-camera action set piece.
Yeah,
which again I kept thinking was budget. I get it.
Yeah.
You know,
we
know
dark.
She's a badass. We don't need to see her kill a bunch of people again because that's been well established.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay. You know, another thing that they dropped is she was like, I just killed, the KiKi's character Nile. She goes, oh, I just killed my first person. I don't know how you live with it. And then she goes on the raid, and then ding, and then she nails about 3. And she never, and they don't even show her struggling with it. They don't even, like, I can see where she wouldn't mention it because she already talked about it and doesn't want to seem weak or something. But she said, I killed a man 3 days ago and I still can't deal with it. And then she gets in fully involved and doesn't bat an eyelash. So
she has no arc, no emotional arc, no. And now, mind you, this goes back to, in a movie like this, who can you hold responsible? Now, I would say the lion's share, probably Charlize Theron. She's the producer. It was her production team that helped put this package together. Maybe Skydance Media. I'm certainly not thinking KiKi Layne. Although it could very well be. Now, mind you, okay, without naming names, there was a movie I worked on back when I worked on movies where the director was having a very hard time with a supporting player who was, you couldn't say was like some big mega name, trying to get that get the performance he was looking for. Now, mind you, bigger cast, so things can be cut around, like an important character, but not a fundamental character. Yeah. So who knows? But at the same time, I thought she was more important. And so, I really do believe, in a couple of days, it could have been, she's not for us. Fire her. Well, we'll find somebody else. There's lots of solid actors out there.
Just a side note to the audience, that movie was Birth of a Nation. Rob's 300 years old.
Okay, so I want the red axe. That's awesome. But Vlad makes a good point here. The work it takes to live for centuries. Let me ask you this, Jim. Let me go back to it. Who could you hold responsible? Who do you think is primarily responsible for a movie like this?
Yeah,
You know, the MCU. Well, that is a large committee.
Yeah,
You know, but something like this. What do you think? Like, who is it? Is it something where we got to look at the director, or?
You know, one of the things that I was looking at something this weekend, and they were talking about let's hear it for the editors, usually women, because they're the real directors. I can't remember what I saw it on. It was some sort of commentary, and they went over all the famous editors that were women, the ones that worked with Scorsese and Spielberg, and there's a few prominent ones.
His first wife.
And he said, well, those are the people that pick and choose the flow, and and what were they? Oh, I think it was a stand-up thing. Was it Patton Oswalt? Anyway, I just said, let's shoot everything. Let's shoot this. Let's shoot 18 miles of film today. Let's just shoot everything. That's the director. And then it gets into the editor's hands, and they're like, okay, let's make a story out of it. So in that sense, I think, it'd be pure speculation. I think this is one of those, questions that you have to sort of be boots on the ground to see that directly. I've not seen anything that this director has done before. I know she's done some highly.
She's got a real.
She got a bit of a resume there, and her work has been appreciated.
Yeah,
I think
this career as a director. So she's not a rookie. This is her first really big budget movie.
I think
although who knows, she might be seeing in the background. It wasn't really a big budget. No budget I got to see.
Why? How much? What did it cost? So says, I'm trying to bait you there.
Yeah.
But and also maybe
she might be saying, I don't know, got 8 million plus I was told my fee had to be cut in half, and I should be happy. This would be an LA move. I should be happy I get to direct a big budget movie like this.
Yeah.
Where's this big budget? You ask a lot. You ask too many questions. Don't you want to be a director of a big budget, like, comic book movie?
People all over the world tonight are going to be sleeping 70 million. But
good. They should. There should be a hashtag. Something about this should be trending. Anyway, sorry, Jim. Continue. Yeah.
No, I just maybe this was out of her wheelhouse. I enjoyed it, but I watched it like as a popcorn movie. That's sort of how I took it. And it's not easy for me to do that a lot of times. I get really critical. I know my son was always, asking me about, hey, what do you think of the
This is a great question, Vlad. We'll talk about that in a second.
He said, what did you think about the Batman movie? And the one with, Heath Ledger. I forget all the subtitles and that kind of thing. But I said, well, is it chaos or order? Because he's got to know he's all about chaos, and he's got to know the fairy routes, and he's got to know this and that, and he needs an army, but he keeps on killing the sergeants that lead his army, and it doesn't make any there's no logic inherent in that. And anyway, so I know he was always sort of disappointed with my takes on those things. So a lot of times you sit back and there's a superhero movie, and it's whether or not you can just let the suspension of disbelief go and enjoy the movie. So I enjoyed it. I recognize there's incredible faults, but I sort of I was on board anyway. More acts. There we go.
Well, I'm kind of let's I'm
reading the comments here.
Vlad brings up a good point. Now, here's what's interesting. You can actually read the first issue of the comic. You can read it online right now. The first issue is free to read online. And I only got through the first few pages, but I was like, oh, yeah, this is very much and you're right, like Greg Rucka, who was the writer of the original comic and then wrote the screenplay, is going to have something to say here. I was more, and so you've got that. Netflix, I suspect they're, with Martin Scorsese, it's like, oh, you want to make a 3.5-hour movie? Whatever. We're down with that, whereas I think with something like this, Charlize Theron and her producer and her production team have way more input. You can definitely, my understanding from the interviews Gina Prince-Bythewood Prince-Bythewood did. She was a hired director. She was hired to do this. And
sort of in the Ron Howard sense, or
pardon?
Like in the Ron Howard sense of being hired, or okay.
No, but a hired gun. Like she's just like she was interviewed and she got a chance to direct a larger budget movie. And as a black woman in the United States, this is a big deal. But I think you can hold her responsible in some areas. The editor, you know what? My understanding of the way it works now, there can be directors where they okay, you're the editor, make the gizmo go, I'll come in and approve it. But the director has, like, the editor is one more person that's working for the director.
Yeah.
Unless the producers like kind of go, oh, we got to take this over, because it's going to crap. But you're not hearing a lot of that. I think in a lot of ways she was probably pretty much in charge, but she was hired to do a job. The script, you're not hearing a lot of, oh, well, this director, and he went to his 4 people that he always gets to rewrite the movie again. It wasn't developed like that, so I don't think that was happening here. I forgot that moment, that nice little moment with the baklava. You have an interesting point there. I gotta hide that. What else do we got here in the comments before I
That was a few minutes back.
It's pronounced Thrawn. So it's not Theron, it's Thrawn. Thrawn like Thrawn or Throne?
We'll wait for his thing. But it's like going to Japan and saying Huton, and nobody's going to know what you're talking about instead of futon. I mean, it's I'd like that Huton.
Here's what do you think? What do you think the theme was in this movie? Like, what do you think it was? What is this movie? What is the movie trying to say?
That's a good one. I was so I mean, I think it was, one of the questions I was asking myself initially, the first few minutes, was, are these people lawful good or lawful neutral, or how would I classify them?
Like from a D&D? Ooh.
Yeah.
We should almost do...
Yeah.
That's some way we can, you know what, we'll put this out to the crowd, but this might be a way to involve, like in a next movie or a movie later. Oh, there we go. Jelly Duck chimed in. Thanks, brother. That might be a way we can get some crowd involved. We got people kind of say, all right, what is it? Chaotic neutral? What? Yeah. Let's get the alignment of all these characters. Okay, sorry, Jim. Anyway, you were thinking about that.
So that was what was sort of concerning me rather than theme. I mean, theme. We've talked in the past about the show. Well, these guys aren't chosen, but the sort of the accidental family idea. There's a little bit of that. Was
but
there
only
anything...
like the tiniest.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like myself, the best way I could think about it was like and again, another missed opportunity story-wise. The characters were struggling except for the Nikki and Joe, who seemed to understand their purpose, and their meaning. And I think if it was, all those elements are there, but they could have brought it together, because it seemed that's what she's struggling with, is why are we doing this? It's not getting better. We're trying to make things better. That's the whole thing. We take jobs that make things better. We're trying to do good here with our lives. And later on, but living a life of meaning, especially in the world, doesn't seem to be providing you with meaning, like a clear direction.
Yeah.
Which is, and again, theologically, they could have gotten into it more. It's like, and you're right, you know what, Jim, but so there she is trying to figure it out. And the other one's saying, no, I've been around. There is not a God who's going to tell you you're doing it right. Don't worry. This is your purpose. We're kind of stuck trying to figure it out. That doesn't mean it's an irreligious comment or an anti-faith comment, but I like, or it doesn't have to be. And that could have been more part of Theron's arc, but it does try and bring that home, and why the Copley character is redeemed is because he is kind of going, look at all these people and all the positive changes they made. And it's a few generations later, they're just kind of stuck in the forest when if any of them kind of took a moment to kind of go, wow, the people we've saved have, either done great things a decade or 5 decades later, and so I thought that was there, but could have been better and could have been tied together with,
You got some comments?
Yeah.
Comparing the immortals to lab mice was kind of interesting. Limited pain for a greater good, but it was tossed away. That's a great, that's a great comment, Vlad. And do you think, Jim? Yeah, it was. Do you think part of it was this is again part of the arc that could have been so much more for Chiwetel Ejiofor's role as Copley? Yeah.
The who gets to decide. Like that could have almost been a theme that just wasn't teased out enough.
Yeah.
Who gets to decide? They're gonna. It was like, no, you're going back to base for tests. She was gonna get chopped up. Yeah, a good classic.
Yeah.
But I think there could have been more done with that. Well, who gets to decide who's good?
So what did you
who gets to decide who makes the choice that you die for the greater good, or we get to take your freedom? Oh, that's like a philosophical problem, isn't it? Hey, if we could just imagine a world where, there's a philosophical thought experiment where we say, hey, we take one kid, put them in a box in the dark, torture them, half-starve them to death, but everyone else will live their best life.
Yeah.
Is that right? And I definitely think now stated that clearly, that loudly, well, except for all the killing that they do.
Yeah.
You could say that they definitely side on one side of that argument, but yeah, except for all those security guards that are like, no, I know, yeah, okay, we dress up and like we're playing soldier, but geez, it's an office gig.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical. Like what's gonna happen? Embezzlement? We're fine.
Yeah. There's a couple. I'm gonna start reading these out. Agree. Moral of the story was told in last piece.
I can literally put it on the screen.
Well, yeah. Instead of having us read, it's a moment of silence. And some people may not be watching the screen. So.
Okay, Jelly Duck's gotta go.
See you later.
All right, brother.
Thanks for tuning in.
Ahmed, thank you very much for coming. All right, read away there, Mr. Chloboyko.
All right, agree. Sorry. Moral of story was told in last piece, showing historical photos, matches Theron's despair early on that the world is getting worse. Answer is
despair.
That he's out of the room now. That little good deeds make big difference over time. I mean that's sort of weird to have it during the credits, though. Like to have that, or almost sort of. Close to the
it
end
was the hook into
there.
the third act.
Yeah,
it was the hook into the third act. Actually,
oh, that's right, too, because they talked about it a bit.
Where she decides for no earned reason to turn back because it's all going to be bad for them. It just so lame. But Where the hell are we here?
I suspect it's a moment of
yeah,
sort of a moment of doubt for that character, though. And you're allowed after 1,000 years or 2,000 or 2,500 years, I think.
Yeah,
have a couple of those. But...
Yeah, well, it's but I think that's like part of why this movie isn't as effective as it could be. And let's say if we're comparing it to another superhero movie, and this should be set up. I think from the movie perspective, Vlad, I think what it was is Charlize Theron's character, what the heck is her name?
Andy.
Andy, thank you. Andromaki. Andy's character feels that way. And they do have a bit of a social media thing as they're suddenly camera shy. Yeah. I think, though, I don't think they're actually saying, though, I don't think a theme is it's getting worse. I think the theme was that her character was not seeing the good because she was getting wrapped up in the immediate, it all just sucks. Yeah. But I think that's just part of her own.
So
2,500 year PTSD.
So there,
are you buying that?
My therapy bills are like $70 million. So there should have been a reaction, like when Andy had seen the big, I'll call it a murder board because that's what it is in detective stories. But when she saw Copley's murder board with all the good deeds that she'd done, and the sort of like 3 generations later, stuff that she may not necessarily know about it. Again, missed shot. There was no like, I did this. Like that could have been a nice there was moment. No moment of what's going on here? You weirdo? What are you doing? You've got our whole lives. It's like, no, look deeper. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you are so old, yet you miss so much. I agree with you. Yeah, missed opportunity. No, because when they did go back, they were too busy trying to bully him into a job. It looks like he was being grateful to being offered. Yeah, it was like, whoa, you're not reading your own room. This isn't an offer. I think he was on board right away. What the hell? Sorry, Jim. No, it's okay. When you are when you're thinking of, okay, first of all, it's almost like that sort of bad cop or like inept cop thing. Most movies involve at some point the cop has to take their eyes off their mission, and then something goes wrong and somebody gets the drop on them. Yeah. And you think, if how did that happen? So in this case, they show them at all these historical events, like hanging out with Martin Luther King. It's like, yeah, you missed that one.
You came late or early. It's like
the bus broke down.
Or maybe they decided, no, he needs to die now. That's when we'll have maximum media impact. That's when his life will have meaning.
One of the headlines involved another nuclear attack. The States would have against Japan, like I guess a third one, and it was circled in not magic marker, but it was circled in big marker, like avoided. Did they get in the way with that? But
well, this is I agree with you, Jim. It was a bit of an eye rolly moment, but again, also that just said. But I thought it was like kind of, this is the beat. They're just being kind of on the nose about she's just tired of this crowd. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. It's like
the world's getting worse. Just what Richard, if you put that up again, it's just like, all right, the Armenian genocide was bad, as was the Holocaust, but boy, 2020, whoo.
That Trump, he really takes it to another level. Yeah, exactly.
Man,
like
I couldn't buy toilet paper. Like it just.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I agree with you, Richard. But I also like, and now, mind you, this kind of goes where maybe Vlad was touching on, although I'm not changing my mind, but there could have been a bit of that. It's like, but it looks like she's too busy watching social media just to avoid it, you know? Yeah, exactly. Spanish Inquisitions. You're absolutely right, Vlad. Spanish World Wars, genocide.
All those massacres. Oh,
yeah. The So yeah, but at the same time, you know, they got to get the movie going.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, really,
it's mostly her own meaning.
Yeah.
What are they? She doesn't feel like they contribute.
Yeah.
And so she's just done.
I think it's just about her weariness, and then whether it's temporary or for the rest of her immortal life, I think it's just she's weary, and that's how they choose to put that forth.
And then, of course, now that she figures it out, she loses her immortality, because
there you go.
That makes sense.
There you go. So here's
the whiny, and again, then the other character who has figured out nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like KiKi Layne's character has learned nothing, and so you got Matthias Schoenaerts. Schoenaerts. I looked it up, and that apparently.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to.
If you look at his character, where it's like I was kind of buying it, like it may not have been plotted as well, but I kind of bought his, you know, sort of sad sack sort of thing he had going on, and why like here's a moment where actually the last couple movies, channeling you, Jim, you know what, there were scenes that were allowed to breathe. They didn't kind of kill it with a joke, or all of a sudden, just as the emotional moment's hitting, oh, explosion, we got to go.
Yeah.
They did allow those moments to happen, and for the most part, they seemed earned from a story perspective.
Yeah.
But he, where was I going with this? He's bummed. I don't know.
Just about the character in his sort of arc. I think that's
like he had an arc. She doesn't. KiKi Layne's character, the Niall Freeman, does not have an arc. None. What has she learned? Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like at the end, she's like, oh, maybe I should do the right thing. Maybe because, and then all of a sudden she plays superhero, and it's like, you haven't earned that. You've been kind of whiny and cranky and bossy, kind of a jerk. You know, like even when we got to move, you know, it's like, why? Yeah, maybe the folks who've been doing this for hundreds of years kind of, he's like, wait for it. And even she goes, oh, and even then she still doesn't seem like she learned anything. And when she's saying, no, you got to stay down here, this is for me, it's like, why? Why can't he go and help out? I don't get that at all. Yeah. And why is suddenly she loyal to to the Andy character? Like, why now? I was like, I can put myself on the line for you. Okay, the non-existent, no stakes, just getting hurt line, but still, I'm not. You know. So
there's something that sort of was also a little bit bugging me about the logistics of this, and once again, for me to say this movie was unrealistic is kind of ridiculous, but. She's walking around with her iPhone, right, for the, you know, all over the place in the mine, in the hidden church, in all these places. She's still carrying her iPhone with the chip inside. You know, that is tracking her location, and she's allowed to, you know, the Andy character confiscates it, gives it back. You know, confiscates it again. She looks at pictures of her, you know, brother and mom, and at no point do they get rid of that, or they, you know, she makes one call on a burner phone and then stomps it into the desert.
Yeah,
so there's logistics that sort of bug me about that. You know, these days when you go in and you take down 30 guards, you're going to be. I don't think, did any of them have gloves? Or you're going to be leaving behind DNA. Even if it's magical DNA, you're going to be leaving behind fingerprints, hair samples.
It's immortal DNA.
You're going to be leaving behind, you know, parts of bodies and brain tissue, because I guess it, so
we're going to come to your comments, Vlad, in a sec. Okay, continue, Jim. Sorry.
The logistics of it, it's sort of, you have this great sort of fantastical premise, and you run with it, and then it runs into like something like
technical problems.
Something like Dexter, if you remember, and then just sort of grabbing that out of the air. It was the guy who worked in the coroner's office that was a serial killer, and he killed other serial killers, right? And he like literally killed one person per episode, and those mount up. And so you can't just keep doing that forever, because it will catch up to you. And I think they deal with that a little bit in that, but so it's where you have the fantastical premise and it runs headlong into current day logistics. And well, how you manage that is sort of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's some of it is, and this is where maybe even something Richard had said earlier, but the logistics of their hiding spots. And it's like, oh, look at this church, and point up, and there's airplanes over it. I'm like, have you met the modern developer?
Have you been to River Heights?
Yeah. Have you met the modern developer where they're going, no, okay, this will be great for warehousing and low-income housing. And even if that didn't work, every teenager would have scoped that place out as a place to drink and have sex and get high and then burn the place down. It's amazing they hadn't been caught yet. They're always getting pictures taken of themselves, like when there's hardly any pictures and people cherished them and they got reprinted and used as postcards. What the hell? I want to come to Vlad. So, I agree with you. Some of the logistics doesn't quite work. But Vlad's made a couple of comments.
I can't see around my microphone.
They do not actually. It is only like in that third act when the action's already turned that we get that moment from Copley describing it to the Niall Freeman character, Vlad, where they do talk about some of these things, about what these four mercenaries have been doing and what a positive impact it's had on the world. They never once talk about, even the one brief thing where the Quinn character is brought up about how they were trying to save people who are being burned at the stake as witches. So this must be 16th or 15th century England. In mostly really heretics that were getting burned. They don't really describe how we saved a lot of women though. It's like, no, they don't talk about that. They're just kind of, we don't actually see them do good. There's no, like, the only one who gets to save the cat moment is KiKi Layne's character.
Yeah. The wigs were good though. You should have, you could have gone.
Let's attract. Heck, cameras just been. Who the hell is this woman?
Where'd that
what she's doing?
Where'd that Humvee go? I don't know. Somebody took it.
And then Copley is suddenly going to be a magical. We can delete everything. No, you can't. It's like, no, you're not deleting Jack.
Well, Rob, they showed him erasing a picture.
Yeah.
Over the end credit.
Yeah. It's like only 352 for the last hour to go.
Yeah. But so you're spending your life dodging CCTV cameras. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in England, where they're everywhere.
The next villain should be
ubiquitous.
The head of a facial recognition firm.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Netflix or Facebook is facial recognition on everything. They almost needed a magical thing that defeated that.
Mm-hmm.
Although they kind of wanted the Copley character because they want their Alfred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it's kind of neat, and they can have that, but I think they could have, some of these logistic issues could have been dealt with by magic. We are talking about, for all intents and purposes, immortal beings. They get a couple more magic spells or gizmos or whatever. Why not?
Well, Dudley
Why
Dursley's in
not?
it. Maybe he can, get some Accio Disapiro from Harry Potter.
Another
there.
one doing his best to be one note.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm thinking, was that the performance they were looking for? That they thought that was a good idea, for him and KiKi Layne, and Anamaria Marinca, she didn't get to do anything.
No. Well, okay, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. But
here, let's say good night to Vlad. You do not overcomment, Vlad. It is the conversation. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We love that you come and you participate. That's just the best.
Affiliate.
70 million. Like, what the
70
hell,
million.
right? You're going to, Jim's right. Both you and I, 70 million.
Can't sleep. I'll fill you in with what happens in the next 3 hours tomorrow.
I don't think we're going to be quite going that far, but
I'm not. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say is that, and I made a note of it, and there's a lot of people here in this cast, and I'm not super familiar with all of them, but the Matthew Schoenaerts, I know I'm mispronouncing that, and the Anamaria Marinca.
They are like the Europeans that the Jets was one of the pioneers back in the 70s of bringing over, because Canadian players are too expensive.
Did a lot of Matthew Schoenaerts. I know I've seen him in Rust and Bone with Marion Cotillard, and they did a lot of these gritty. His star has been steadily on. I think it's too late to say on the rise now. He's been awarded things in France as being a man of arts and letters and things like that, and he was in
he's a pro,
something
like a top tier pro.
Something about horses that did fairly well last year. Richard's saying,
he's just giving a shout out to Vlad.
Yeah. And then Anamaria Marinca, of course, was in the Romanian abortion drama. I got to get this right. 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. Yeah. Which I actually watched, which is as fun as it sounds, but it's very gray and very filled with ladas I did. So what's interesting to me is the career arc.
And she had a cool little part. Yeah. Let's go to the other extreme. Ghost in the Shell, the remake, the live action remake. Yeah. Which I think deserves a little better treatment than it's gotten. But that's for another show. She had a nice little piece in there where I thought she was allowed to be the scientist who,
Yeah.
And it was a small role as well, like 2-3 scenes.
Yeah.
She smoked and she was a character. Like you could kind of go, oh, that is someone.
I've seen her in a number of things since, and she always I think does some pretty good work. But the arc is interesting to me, where you start in these lower budget, maybe kind of edgier movies, and things that are critically acclaimed and maybe don't cost 70 million, but that and they may be like a locally shot, non-English movie, not a foreign language movie, and then you slowly watch as their careers rise, and they're in 10 years later they're in basically a superhero movie, and that's it. And you see this time and time again, whether it was somebody like I don't want to say Ewan McGregor, but you start off a little edgier, a little more challenging, a little more a little less well compensated, and then bam, you're off to the races, and
Yep.
you're doing some pretty it's just interesting to watch that progression anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
But like in this movie, she wasn't allowed to do anything.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
And I don't. Yeah. And there, I think we can firmly put it on the production because she
And-
can deliver, and she just wasn't given anything to
Yeah.
deliver.
and she
it's,
wasn't, and it wasn't like I saw her initially, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the scientist that's in the project but has misgivings, and she's going to be able to
They
emote
gave that all to Copley.
Yes, and
Yeah. But
and,
they couldn't even do a kind of, they could have been allies or something. They could have done something. They just
Yeah.
like, nope,
No,
we'll have you, and
she
then
was
we'll
into it.
just not do anything
Yeah.
with it.
she was just very much into it. So
Yeah. Well, into it in a very bland kind of,
Yeah.
yes, I would like that. That would be great.
Mhm.
Listen, before we get to final thoughts, and Jim and I announced the next movie, you know what? It's that time again. What are we begging for, Jim?
oh, the three things. the
We'd love your like. We'd love you to subscribe. And that last one, what are we
Ding-a-ling.
smashing?
Smashing a bell.
Smashing the bell.
Smashing that Liberty Bell.
Yeah. So, Jim, any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked it. I was able to enjoy it. I'll say that it was a good popcorn movie, a good summer movie. Whether if I watched it in 10 years, would it, as we ask, would it hold up? Not so sure, but I just like the straight through line. I mean, huge suspension of disbelief. You need on this one. Script needed a little bit of a punch up, and there's a lot of work that needed to be done here. But and 70 million. But and really, if you're gonna have,
See, you're gonna be doing it, Jim.
if you're gonna have old guard, which I suspect is gonna be called older guard, but more acts. More acts, please. How about you? What are your final thoughts on it?
You know what? I'm so glad we do this, Jim. I learn a lot about the film, especially and you're right. Like I'm probably being a little harsh on what's still a summertime Netflix movie. I will still say, though, I'm for the most part sticking to my guns because, again, I'm comparing it to three movies that it is in many respects like in a Venn diagram. There's so much overlap here. I think it's worthy of comparing it to Atomic Blonde and John Wick for a number of reasons, and even my shout out to Highlander. And I'm like, you look at those two recent movies, and it's not like way back in the day, pretty kind of recent in the last few years. And it's like they just have, like, John Wick will be considered an action classic. I cannot see how it won't, if not hold up in 10 or 20 years. They'll still go, no, something happened there and it changed action movies. Atomic Blonde again, I can only kind of remember what it was about. It wasn't necessarily the greatest story, but God, it had so much style. It had just a great style, great atmosphere, and so when I compare that to this, that doesn't have that style and atmosphere, certainly is not showing us anything where we go, wow.
Yeah.
What the hell's with Keanu Reeves? Just in multiple films where we're like, I don't like, he's changed action movies twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who gets to do that?
Bruce
Being
Willis.
the same guy. What's
Yeah.
that?
Bruce Willis did, but that was a million years
did
ago.
he change? I think you could argue that Bruce Willis was part of what created the action movie, because before it was adventure movies. They took, of course, a number of days. And we don't actually see adventure movies like, we used to. Even Raiders of the Lost Ark, which in some ways is like the perfect adventure movie, is in many respects a shout out to something no one was making anymore. Whereas Die Hard, there's the action movie, every man doing his thing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this. So I think I can still. I'm still keeping most of my judgment, but I'm gonna back off a little because you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, it's, what am I expecting? It's still just and again, if anyone's hard done by, it's Netflix, who should be saying, what do you mean we gave her $70 million? Although, who knows? Maybe they're looking at the math and how people are watching it, and because of Charlize Theron, and because she does kick a fair bit of they're going, nope, worth every nickel. Yeah, we can tell she put most of it in her pocket, but that's why we hired her. We could have made a far higher production value movie with half the money that no one would have seen because no one would have recognized any of the people. So I think those are my final thoughts. What, Jim? But so you would definitely think it's worth people's time, though, eh?
Yeah. I mean,
it's Netflix.
That's a big.
It's got to be pretty crappy if it's not worth people's time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good. But I've been thinking about that just in our approach too. Is that when you recommend a movie with everything out there right now, all the quality stuff, all the TV series that we don't do because we don't do TV on the show.
Yeah.
When you're recommending something, that's a. I'm not saying it's a life or death decision, but it's a pretty tall. What you're saying is that
it's time.
This thing is as good as all the other stuff you're going to watch
that you could recommend.
Yeah. So I would give it a qualified. It's a fun summer movie. It's very much a mood thing. If you're into something dark and gritty and I would give it a qualified. It's kind of a fun watch as long as you don't question anything about it, but, which I clearly wasn't doing. But
well, no, I like the way I like the way you put it, and yeah, you know what, I am, because I think that's in a way where I've finally written a script for our very first show movie review of something we've already seen and overanalyzed, Badland, but I'm sitting on it for a couple of days. But in the end, I'm I think that's where, and you and I have talked about this already, but I think that's where we're going to come to. Is it worth your time? Mm-hmm. We're kind of watching stuff where they've already paid for it. Now the only other part is time. I think when you watch a movie with us, now, this is a bold statement to everyone, but I think one of the things that makes the movies we're choosing worth someone's time is if they join us afterwards.
Yes.
And this I can say, even as I'm ranting about it at the beginning, I'm glad I watched it. Glad we picked it. I'm glad we do this because I get so much more out of the movie-going experience or the movie-watching experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're the one that recommended it, and I'm glad you did.
I was super keen on it. That's right. You're right. It was like, we got to see this. It looks so cool.
And I didn't, I'm glad you chose it because this might have been one of those, worthy Netflix things that you say, I'll watch it at some point, and then you realize it's 5 years later and you still haven't touched it. So anyway.
All right. Well, then let's, I guess it's time to wrap it up. Jim, what are we checking out next week?
Well, I've been calling the movie My Name is Dolomite the entire week, which is wrong because it
is wrong.
Dolomite is my name. So
there we go, folks. Yep. That's right.
So that is, we decided to go
Part
a little
of Eddie
lighter.
Murphy's I Am Still Funny. I'm Still the King. Thank you very much.
Oscar nomination, baby.
Yeah. Oh, and all reports deservedly so. Well, of course, I have no problem sharing my opinion on that, which makes me think of another thing. But okay, so we know what we're watching next week, and that's right, everybody. You guys, for those of you still in the stream, you can check it out check it out, and then join us to join the Yap with us on Monday, July 20th at 9:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's apparently the official code, not Central Standard Time. Jim, okay. I've been doing it wrong.
Oh, no.
Universal Time Code offset -5 for those our international viewers. Again, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. It was another another great show, and you guys really do help make it for Jim and I. So thanks very much. And now I think it's time to, if I can find my pointer here, time to cue the outro.
I've been in your world.